morning to you all.
Good morning.
And good morning to everybody who is listening here and who's viewing this as well. First of all, I wanted to acknowledge how many people are watching and listening to the links, not just mine and Elizabeth's and John Paul, but all of the students who are giving links. And I really appreciate this opportunity for all of us to be able to speak of our mind and to be able to express our view, as well as also to be able to convey our view to the larger audience. And today, in that very spirit, what I would like to actually speak is the eternal smile. Now, the title, The Eternal Smile, came to my mind as to really express this unconditional sense of cheerfulness that we all ought to have. It's not like we have it, but we ought to have. And when I say we ought to have, it's not, again, with any sense of pressure or anything to undermine people's conditions that maybe perhaps is not very cheerful, and smile as a good product would come naturally. But we have no choice, in a way. And the reason why I said that there is no choice is because unfavorable conditions or difficult circumstances and circumstances that are challenging, even though we all wish we somehow are going to be exempt, or we wish they do not. However, it happens here, it happens there, and we see it, and we hear it in the news, that it's not going to come to us, or we hope, or we wish that they would not reach us. But nonetheless, no one is exempt from unfavorable circumstances. No one is exempt from difficult circumstances. No one is therefore not going to be exempt from challenges to face in life. And in this, how we work with the life and the circumstances of the life in that very moment, in that very conditions, it's going to be very important, and with a sense of cheerfulness that is unconditional, we would have a better chance to turn the unfavorable circumstances or difficult circumstances or the challenging times into our own growth, into our own outcome of a better outcome of an unexpected growth. Now, if we can actually just be a little bit careful here with not so many movements. I'm getting very distracted with all these movements.
Sorry, Rinpoche.
You lost it?
We're getting feedback, that's all.
Oh, I see.
We don't know how to solve it, so.
I'll just do this, Rinpoche, and then I'll stop.
In our ears.
I see.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, we won't do it again. I'll tell everyone to shut up. Sorry. All the information is that our audio feed is wonderful, our video feed is a little soft. We don't have to solve
And I
it,
don't.
so
So,
I'm sorry.
just plug this in. So sorry, Rinpoche.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we have to be cheerful here too.
Thank
Smile
you.
here as well. So, as we had the opportunity to discuss about the tender heart of human being last time when I was a tender heart. And in the Buddhist teachings, this tender heart is not what normally we see as a heart with the shape and with the arteries and with the blood flowing in the arteries. It's basically Tsorwa. Tsorwa is feelings. And in the feelings, of course, there's the physical feelings. When you see something beautiful, you feel the sense of being touched by the beauty. Or when you see something unpleasant, you are touched by the sense of unpleasant sight of it. And then there's the other things which is neither beautiful or pleasant, nor ugly or unpleasant, and neutral. And there's the kind of neutral feelings that is produced in our experience. And this is with the senses. Now in the mind, there's again our feelings. Actually, when you think about someone who you are very close and someone who inspires you, there's a feeling as well, pleasant. And then there's the opposite of that, in the similar way. And then there's the neutral feelings. So there's the Lützor and the Sensor, the physical feelings and the mental or the emotional feelings. Now this all as a Tsorwa, feelings. And we are attracted to the pleasant feelings. We are always drawn to pleasant feelings. We are always trying to have a pleasant feelings. We are always pushing away the unpleasant feelings. We are always rejecting the unpleasant feelings, whether that is in the physical realm or whether that is in the mental realm. And with the neutral feelings, we just don't bother doing either one of those, grasping or rejecting. So this sort of makes us basically adore a being, reactor. And in the process of reacting, we are constantly not being still. We could not be still. We are moving one way or the other. And in this movement, we are creating our karma. And then thus we rip our own karma, positive and the negative karma comes back to us as a positive and the negative result. So in the Buddhist teachings, Tsorwa is the heart. And they're always reacting, impulsively or with no ways to hold back in general. Then react with no sense of control, but to react. And react in a pattern of trying to grasp and trying to enhance the sense of pleasure and joy and happiness in one's experience. And similarly, try to reduce and minimize or vanquish the unpleasant experience, discomfort, unpleasurable, unhappiness, suffering. When we look at that very objectively, with a sense of having one step taking back from what's going on in one's own experience. As a viewer and to be viewed, both being you. Not one or the separate or different. Not being either one. But nonetheless, with the, in Tibetan we have this word called Zhenrik and Rangrik, both being applied. Zhenrik is when you come to be aware of an object outside with the senses. In that time, the mind has the power, the capacity to be aware of something else. Then when you are actually observing your own state, when you're observing your own experience, that same power of the mind that is to view something other than itself cannot be applied here, could not be applied here. The Rangrig, the self-awareness has to be applied. So this kind of an introspect or self-awareness being applied when we can see our own mind, not with a sense of all this normal times, with the confusions of being driven by a force that is one's own attachments, and there's no self-awareness of the attachments, driven by the force of one's own aggression. Attachment is to grasp after, aggression is to reject. And when we are driven by those forces and lost the self-awareness, it's very difficult to have any kind of a introspect, self-awareness as what's going on objectively. It's like driving 100 miles an hour on the highway and you cannot enjoy the view. You may be able to have glimpses of what's around in the either side of the road, but you cannot have any close view of what's really around in the either side of the road or in front. You're so much driven to get where you want to go and then just kind of focus on getting where you want to go ahead. Like that, most of the time I think we as in a sentient being in general, and particularly human beings, and particularly human beings in the modern generation, because of the conditions that we live in, we don't have so much of a time that we can actually sit down and have an introspect, self-awareness as what's going on inside of one's mind. So hence one wouldn't really feel so much of the tender heart of oneself or others in this kind of a speed. But when one has some real interest in genuine experience of life and a human being, human being as to be critically observed as what's going on, as in one's own mind and in one's own life, with the conditions that we are all similarly and differently involved. When we slow down in the meditative state, in the dharmic word, it's called Dosimtse Chikpa. Without the Dosimtse Chikpa, it's very difficult to see one's mind clearly. So hence any spiritual progress is going to be very difficult. So what is the Dosimtse Chikpa? Döpisen means desire world, mind of the ultimate desire world. Mind of the ultimate desire world is when you have slowed down enough. And then when you are able to see your mind as a experiencer of all sorts of pleasures and unpleasurables, and react to the pleasures in one way, react to the unpleasurable in another way, reacts to the neutral objects in a neutral way, and how you are driven by your own attachments, how you are driven by your own aggressions, how you are in other times sort of in the dull state. When you can kind of see your own mind like a movie, and you have this concentration, meanwhile, going. You're not particularly trying to concentrate on the one thing. You're trying to actually concentrate on what's actually going on in general. In that general time or in that particular day or in that particular hour as you are meditating. And then the mind becomes very clear, concentrated but yet very clear. And then when one sees in that how you're so vulnerable, not in a sense of anything is about to happen, but you're so vulnerable as how, as a small insect reacts to joy and suffering, pain and pleasure, happiness and suffering, to the conditions of those. You have no any sort of like any more advanced or any more greater advantage being different than the small insect that is crawling. Right now we have this very tiny flies. And it's the size of a tip of a needle. So when you are able to see how you yourself and this tiny fly are really no different at all. You yourself in this tiny fly has life. Sorrow, the experience of pain and pleasure. Sepa, grasping and the rejection, grasping for the pleasure, grasping to reject the opposite of the pleasure, the unpleasurable experience. And then so as also lampa, the taking aspect of the pleasure here with the grasping, the taking aspect of the rejecting here. Life, feelings, grasping and taking, all being there. This tiny little insect or fly is a sentient in this way, moving, vulnerable to one's own conditions. And you are actually vulnerable as well, moving in these conditions. Now, of course, there's the self there. And that self here is what kind of separates us, makes us think, what's going on in my life is a much bigger, something much greater, something that only sort of is what's happening in the world. Almost it has that feeling. Almost sort of a hypnotic power to sort of make us blind of others, other experiences, other sentient beings around, other human beings around, other sentient beings experience, other human beings experience. It sort of has a power to create the bubble of our own as what's going on with our own lives as the focal point. But illogical. However powerful it is, illogical, baseless. Illogical in a sense, what's going on in all beings. As life and the experience of life, which contains pain and pleasure and neutral experience. You could make of all of the sentient beings experience as in a sort of your focal point. Now the beauty of that is it pops our bubbles. The beauty of that and the significant merit of that is it pops our bubbles. And when you are able to pop the bubble of one's own hypnotic self-absorption and see how all sentient beings are vulnerable, how all sentient beings are always reacting in these conditions of life, with experiences and with the grasping and with the rejection and with the effort to enhance those both. And then, if you could actually come up with a genuine sense of a tender heart, to place in the side of not just your one individual on behalf your one individuals on behalf of happiness and the causes and the conditions of the happiness to be wished for or wished by you, if you could actually put yourself in the side of all of the sentient beings, all of the humanity, side, and on behalf of all of the sentient beings and all of the human beings, or the humanity itself, when you could make that switch to make a wish for the happiness of all of sentient beings, for the happiness of all of the human beings or the humanity, and for the cause and conditions that is known and that is unknown to you, for whatever the cause and condition that is right cause and conditions, for the happiness that all are striving here for. If you could make a genuine, heartfelt wish in there, now that is called something kesem. In the Buddhist terminology, something kesem is the sort of first of the four meditative states of the immeasurables. Now something in there happens that is so extraordinary. For one, one's normal, this kind of an drive for one's own happiness with attachments. One's this normal drive to reject one's own suffering with aggression. Just the kind of a general density of one's own stupidity mind that pervades one's state has lifted. So one's mind has become more in one's control. Control in a sense, not that your mind is not reacting in any way that one is previously reacting, but one is able to see one's own mind clearly. It's like as if you have from 100 miles an hour going fast to slow down to 35 miles an hour, where actually you are able to have the time to see around what's in the both sides of the neighborhood, how the houses are, how the lawns are, how the trees are, how the grandmothers and grandfathers drinking lemonade out on the porch, or the kids are playing in the yard or on the street. That in itself is a control of mind. The slowing down to that point is a control, because you are able to see things clear. Then on top of it, being able to not just follow the ego's impulse, but rather the impulse of all being viewed, not one individual or yourself as an individual's impulse being always catered to or enhanced with your effort, trying to put it oneself in the side of the humanity in large, sentient being as in a whole. And then being able to make a wish on behalf of the sentient beings, making a wish on behalf of the humanity as in a large. That very ego that generally is always there, the self that is always there, even in the times of really great joy and great happiness, there is still that ego always there, like a pebble in the shoes, or however comfortable the shoes that you wear. If there is a pebble, you're going to feel it. So there is that ego always there. Now in this time when you are able to put yourself in the side of the humanity and making a prayer on behalf of the humanity, on behalf of the sentient beings, that ego has been dissolved. And having that ego being dissolved in this way, for the time being, for the moment, there is a tremendous sense of lightness that comes up. Not just the beauty of being able to see the world and the inside of the world, the internal life of the world, the vulnerable of all sentience, mind, and humanity's mind. But when one is able to come in that side, to make a prayer and to make a genuine wish with the kind thoughts, What is a kind thought? Kind thought is on behalf of others. When one can make a wish for happiness with sense of equal weight or equal sincerity as you have that wish for yourself. And your own happiness. Or whatever the cause of the happiness that you make a wish for them to have also has to be with the equal weight and equal sincerity as that cause, as if it's going to be the cause of your own happiness. And you could make a link between the result and the cause, and you have a real deep inspiration. Therefore, to go for the cause, for the result of the happiness. Now, for of course, someone who believes in the Dharma, genuinely from one's deep heart, there's not going to be any greater cause for anyone's happiness than the Dharma itself. But that's of course not going to be the case with everyone, because it's not like everyone has the belief in the Dharma as one has a belief in the Dharma. But everyone would most probably believe that essential for life's happiness would be good health, for example. Whether somebody believes in Dharma or not, both would agree a good health is going to be a cause of happiness. Security. In that good, healthy life. Most probably, whether somebody believes in the Dharma or not, would both agree it's good to have a good security in one's life, healthy life. So as a part of the security, then there are many other things that one might actually think is going to be cause of happiness. Not we are talking about ultimate happiness, but we are talking about relative happiness, such as a good family, a good support system to your life, good amount of wealth, as a result of the world, are good living conditions. All of those, whether somebody believes in the Dharma or not, would most probably will agree all of those is as a relative cause of happiness. You could actually see it in this meditative state, how people are always working for this, working towards achieving those. How people are always almost being enslaved with these drives. Drives that propels them to achieve those causes and conditions for the happiness. If it is not for the happiness, why would it be? Why would one work so hard? Why would one be so driven? What is it for? What's the point? So when you see it in this way, and then you could actually feel the sense of their urgency, their sort of hopes and fears, their experience of great interest, passion, their longing, visions, imaginations of what that achievement is going to be for them. It doesn't matter whether you believe in them yourself or not. That's beside the point. A lot of people argue about, I don't agree in this. I'm a Dharma practitioner. I don't believe in this kind of a worldly benefits or happiness. They are all impermanent anyway. In the something kesem, in the for immeasurable first stage of the for immeasurable mind to accomplished, you cannot separate yourself from others in that way. There is no you to separate yourself from others in this way. If you separate yourself and if you see yourself somehow different, then you're going to have judgments. And with that kind of a judgment, you will not accomplish something kesem. The first round of the something kesem, something tangui sem. When you don't have your own mind as to have a wish separate from others, and your others' wish is your wish, and you see others' wish very clearly in detail and in a very precise ways, as if you are them. And then able to make that kind of a sincere wish and make a prayer on behalf of others, almost sometimes in that you're much more clear on what they want than they themselves are. Because they themselves are a lot of the times in the speed of things, they are continuing. They haven't quite slowed down enough to know their own impulses or their own drives quite clear. So, when you achieve this kind of something kesem, which is difficult, but it's possible. The whole one's own load that we carry all the time generally. My Lord, my life, my achievements, my future, my security, my happiness, my suffering, my well-being. These are all Lord. These are all very heavy, heavy Lord. You know, we don't think of them as in a Lord, but they do actually weigh a lot of weight, and we are always carrying them in our mind. Me, mind, Lord, weight of all what's important. As a child, you're very bouncy, you know. As you get older, more sophisticated, more actually broad thinker, more actually critically equipped. Once Lord of me and mine gathers, and one is carrying that always in one's mind. So one is actually carrying one's whole world as a weight on one's own head and shoulder with so much kind of seriousness and with so much feeling of urgency to fix everything. That's why all the wrinkles on our face shows up prematurely. All the overweight that we carry is a symbol of that. If actually you see somebody walking on the street without that weight carrying in their mind, very difficult to imagine. So, eternal smile is actually to unload that weight, lighten up that weight. And there's no any other way to lighten up that load and weight than to put oneself in the side of the humanity, to put oneself in the side of the sentient mind, and to align with sentient's wish, humanity's wish, as your wish, and make prayers on behalf of the sentient beings in large, human being as in a large, humanity as in a large. Now, the question is going to be, $1 million question is going to be, why doesn't that become your weight and brings you the wrinkles on your foreheads and puts you, puts you in the obesity. Why doesn't that do you the kind of like do you in? To create all of the sufferings that runs you down. That's because there's no small self there. And when there's no small selves present in that kind of thought process, however the conditions of the sentient beings and the lack of the happiness of the sentient beings is in samsara, we see without so much ultimate happiness, and it's all quite full of holes, lack of conditions of happiness even in the temporal situations. Nonetheless, whatever is going on in the, for example, in this one room with the people that are in the room, each and individually in their life as to make their lives better, and whatever the happiness that is in the mind of the individuals here, if one can become very aware of that. More so even than the individual himself or herself in the room. And then have this sense of equal kind of like a urgency or sincerity or yearning for that happiness on behalf of the individuals in the room, and is able to make that into one's priority to make a prayers on behalf of the individuals in the room. The small self dissolves. With the small self, all the heavy weight also dissolves. The big self in this case, or in this case, however, one makes a tremendous strong prayers or strong wish from one's heart, it all works as to dissolve the small self and the weight of the small self. The big self doesn't have the possibility to create that kind of a toxic big self is alkalizing for the small self, that is a toxin. Alkalizing could not become a toxic in itself. So, as in the something Tangbu Gisem, first round of the something or the meditative state, which is loving kindness practice, if one can actually settle one's mind fully. What I mean by settle one's mind fully is to be able to dissolve the small self, the pebble, me, mind, load, and all the weights that we carry. Naturally, eternal smile is being born in that. Gets born out of that. Smile comes when you feel light. Smile comes when you feel touched. Smile comes when you feel amused. Smile comes when you feel moved. Smile comes when you feel ironies of life. Smile comes when something sort of tickles you from within. All of those conditions are in the something, sem. In the something Tangbuki sem. The first round of the something sem. Now then if you actually settle your mind furthermore in that, then you really see the dependent origination, selflessness. Everything works as a dependent origination. It's not like a, for example, in here, something kisem or the meditative power here as in a cause, your state of mind as in a joy, are linked. Nagarjuna states in the letter to his dear friend King, Lord, if you don't accomplish anything else, as I have mentioned in this, please meditate on the something kisem, because that will not only in this life will keep you healthy and happy, but in the next life it will bring you to the Brahma realms, realms of Brahma. Also in the Nagarjuna states in the praise to the Bodhisattva, anyone who has done well in this world or in the next life, all comes from this Gevisem, what ultimately virtuous mind or the Gevisem is in the essence is Samba, maitri, mind of maitri. So, when you're able to link those two, Samba and Deva, as a cause and effect, just clearly in one's own experience, with this meditative state as a cause, and your state of mind being transformed and changed into a state of happiness or joy or gay, as a cause and effect, like that then you see, Dzigar Kongtrul Rinpoche states, before you accomplish anything, you have to accomplish the maitri mind. If you accomplish the maitri mind, then the compassion mind follows that. Then all of the paramita follows that. All of the reasoning of the interdependent origination can follow that. In that framework of the Sambatsemi, or in the framework of something Tangbukisem, the first round of the immeasurable mind, all of those possibilities are there. So, outwardly, one can be in the condition of really quite actually, there's a story of a great teacher who had so much of trouble with his feet, swelling and with a gout, pus and blood and all coming out. And when you go to see him and then ask, how are you, Rinpoche? And he says, I'm really well, I'm very happy, but the old man is suffering. You are able to take the conditions of your unfavorable circumstances, difficult circumstances, challenging circumstances in the samthinki state, in this way, to see yourself separate from it. And thus, it increases your samthinki sen. Furthermore, or the loving kindness furthermore, towards the others. Now, only the thing is that we have a very tenacious, long habit. In a good days, one can actually do the samthinki meditation and accomplish the samthinki sen, and you could really dissolve the small pebble or the salt and get to the state of the joy and the happiness of the samthinki state. But then in the other times when actually one is disturbed, and when one is, for example, something happens to your child, or something happens to your health, or something happens to your very important project, it almost has, because of the habit, because of the power of the habit, mind can lack its resilience or the ability to achieve the samthinki state. So, however samthinki sen could be achieved, it's not going to be necessarily stable unless one has a long-term meditation on this. And then even with a long-term meditation, sometimes one's mind can actually go off into this whole chaos state. But the good news is that at some point, if one has an interest in the samthinki sen, one can actually come back to it. It will be maybe a day, it will be a week that one is all caught up. But at some point, one continuously tries with the effort, not give up the effort at all, completely, but tries with the effort to achieve the samthinki state. With your own surprise. You thought it might take 1 month to get you beyond this worries or this anxieties or this kind of like a whole chaos state. But actually it took only 1 week. You think it will take actually 1 whole week to get you beyond this. But actually it took only 3 days. You took, or it will take a whole 1 day. Okay, today I'm sure the whole day I'll be anxious and a whole day I'll be caught up in this kind of a chaos state of mind. But then you really are surprised that by the afternoon, with this effort of meditating on the samthinki state, it only just consumed you in the morning, not the whole day. So as like that, I think as the something, the state of mind becomes more practice and more custom to your being, one will be surprised how well one can actually get back on the ride, so to speak. But if you don't have a ride at all, you're in the mercy of this whole chaos forever, till it dies out. So it's, however you get off, fell off from the horse, but it's very, very important to have the horse, still a rein of the horse in your hand, so that you could mount back, so that you're not all lost in the blizzard of the chaos of one's mind. So, in this way, I want to actually really emphasize maitri program as a way of maintaining one's eternal smile and way of making one's life pleasant, way of making one's mind clear as to what's going on with oneself and with others, all, and the maitri program as a way to pop the bubble of one's own hypnotic sub-absorption, a maitri program as a way to unload one's own weight of me and mine, concerns and hopes, all adding up to a weight. The maitri program as in a way of achieving the concentration in mind, as in a general and particularly concentration in one's mind to connect the dots from cause to result. The maitri program as in also really to kind of not just through verbal expressions, through only verbal communications, looking at somebody without the verbal communications, words being exchanged. Usually, without the maitri program, they become inanimate. Okay, if I don't use a maitri program here, you all, how would I know? Is not inanimate. Because you are moving, therefore I think you are actually not inanimate and you are actually real human beings. That's not verifiable reasons. Because you could be moving in the TV, but the TV is inanimate. So, maitri program or the Chambatseme as in a way to bring all surrounding of you that are sentient beings or that are human beings as a real being into no real they are real beings. They are not inanimate. And you are only the animate here. To know that you and others all are animate beings. One needs the champatsame to be able to use one's mind in this way. So, to enlighten oneself of others' experience, one needs champatsame. To know others' ups and downs, or what's going on behind the eyes movement, behind the body's gestures, behind the brain's activities, behind the hands gestures, behind the physical animate physical, to know anything as there is something, somebody, as a being, one needs a champatsame. To read anything that is of the physical to the non-physical, you need champatsame. Without the champatsame, how could, we would know at all that this is not what we are seeing in the movies. There is a real being there. Like in the theater, there is no real being. In the screen, there is no real being. In the screen, somebody actually dies. With the hunger, there is no real being dying in the hunger. But in life, there is. But to know from the screen to the real life, the difference is not because what you see in the movements in the physical world, because what you see in the movements in the physical world, you see it in the screen. What I see in the screen of Bill Roberts acting in many ways, different ways, in various scenes in the movies that he acted, to know that is not a Bill Robert, but this is a real Bill Robert, I need to know he is a being. I need to know that he has a mind. He has an experience of the mind. How would I know that he has a mind and he has the experience of the mind and he reacts in the ways that, he reacts to the mind towards the happiness and towards the suffering? All of this with the Tsorwa Sepa Lempa, I have to know that I have a mind, that I have feelings, that I have, with the feelings, pain and pleasure, happiness and suffering. And I react to pain and pleasure in a different ways, and happiness and suffering in different ways. So hence in this way, when he reacts, I know what he's reacting. So this has all in the largely, if we are to think carefully of this, is what so-called living a life with the surroundings. Without the champatsame, we are alive, but we are not alive as being aware with our surroundings. We are being buried down in our own burdens, in our own heavy weight of me and mine, hopes and fears and concerns, with a hypnotic sub-absorption. So, first thing to be able to smile, is to unload the weight of me and mine. And Champa Tseme is the greatest. And then the Nyingje Tseme can come, compassion, immeasurable compassion can come, immeasurable sympathetic joy can come, immeasurable equanimity can come. But the first most important thing for one to become a spiritual person is Champa Tseme, to have the heart, heart of the maitri with one's mind. So I'll leave it here, and thank you all very much.
Thank you.
By this merit, all temptations may be and wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings, emulating Vira, Mantra, Shri, Samatavata, and all those with knowledge. I too make a perfect dedication of all actions that are positive, emulating Vira, Mantra, Shri, Samatavata, and all those with knowledge. I too make a perfect dedication of all actions that are positive, emulating the hero of Mantra, Shri, Samatavata, and all those with knowledge. I too make a perfect dedication of all actions that are positive, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. Precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. Bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. In peace is the celestial palace of light. In this palace, seated upon an iron throne, rests Mahaguru Pema himself, emanating from the kindness of all the Buddhas of the three times. He is surrounded by 100 million Vidyas and possesses the youth and splendor of a boy in his prime. You who are free of birth, old age, death, and decay, consider me, having accrued little merit, the beings of this degenerate time, who have been born at the very decline of noble Shakyamuni's teachings, unlike the great disciples of the past who were able to see his face. We do not have the good fortune of liberating deluded mind through the diligent study of the three abstinence, but through the light rays of compassion which raise all states. Having heard your name, I call upon you, Mahaguru, and with great young and pure intent I supplicate for myself and others from this life until enlightenment. With the support of your compassion, may I turn away from hindrances and aversions on the path. May all disturbing emotions, war, disease, and poverty be pacified. May all aggravating obstacles be subdued. May I meet my own inner wisdom Guru through the essential practice of your Guru Yoga. Loving kindness show the path of benefit and happiness to all. May I become an excellent noble friend to all beings. And the appearances of this life dissolve. May I